Hi guys, happy weekend. I hope you are doing well. This I don't feel is for the weekend. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to put a timeline on this. It's just there were an awful lot of, when I got done with the monthlies, I had to take a day and just really sit and think, because I think we're coming into times where we're in uncharted territory, and I think it's a positive, but on the flip side, it's also we're creatures of habit, right? We're like not really sure if we want to try something new. We're not really sure if we want to taste something new. We're just not really sure. You know what I mean? It's a time of uncertainty on a global scale, right? So it just left a feeling in my mouth that the readings were just incomplete for the people that want to really change things in their life, right? And that's how I'm trying to hit this from an angle for it. Now, these are psych cards. I don't normally use these for general readings, but I felt today that what is going on underneath, what I can't get out of my mind is the healing card from the oracles. It showed up a good many times, and I think it's a deep-seated healing. For individuals, yes, but I think as a collective also, and that's kind of, it just left an unfinished taste in my mouth, and that doesn't ever end well with me like that. I have to get whatever I'm looking for once that happens. So I pulled out my psych cards. Now, these are, again, when I'm using these cards in a private session, they're because someone is stuck in a certain way, a certain pattern. They can't figure out why they do certain things, or there's an underlying something and we can't really find out where it's coming from. I'll pull out the psych cards and we'll go digging a little bit deeper, right? I've got a few different sets of different things like that, but they're not usually general, and they're not used in a tarot session, so to speak, on YouTube. But for some reason, I just felt that the link to that healing card sat a little bit deeper than I was able to really touch on in a tarot reading. But these cards, again, I combined the decks, so they're psychological cards, but they're enlightening from a point of everyday, the things that we do every day, but also part of them are also with relationships, because to me, we grow with relationships. We're not going to grow by ourselves. We grow in the interactions with people. We learn from, private relationships, one-on-one relationships, intimate relationships. We learn from friendships. We learn from, parents, siblings. We learn from just different people. We grow in that perspective. So I combine the deck because I think they do go together. And this is a perfect example of why I believe that. Every single one of these cards are labeled as healing cards underneath. And they come from two different decks. And again, I shuffle, I pull a card, I shuffle, I pull a card. I don't pull anything right next to each other with these, okay? Because I've got the decks combined, I want to give the most authentic reading. So these two cards, ironically, are give and take, receiving, giving and receiving. So be ready to receive something, okay? And they're both healing cards, okay? So, and you've got over here, and these are both healing cards also. You've got leadership and forgiveness. Okay, I think that what this is it's self-forgiveness. You know what I mean? I think that you've got to forgive yourself for things, and you've got to heal from things. And that could be across the board here. But I'm going to say you're going to be given a gift. And the gift itself is not so much the content of it. It's the process of it. It's the being able to be open to receive and to be open to give and to get the energy flowing there. And I think that the leadership card is just taking responsibility for that, right? It's just maybe having proper boundaries in place, being open to something. Again, responsibility, taking responsibility. It's just showing up for yourself. And it's just saying, look, I need to forgive myself here for just, it doesn't need to be in any particular area. It's just, through my life, sometimes I forgive everyone else. But do I ever remember to forgive myself? You know what I mean? We're not perfect. Otherwise, we're not growing. So we inevitably do things that don't turn out the way that we anticipate. But when we take responsibility for them, when we say, you know what, I'm going to hit the reset button. I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to make today a whole new chapter, and I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to be open to giving. I'm going to be open to receiving, and that's when life flows. Okay, and that's what I think is going on here. I think that this is something that is really just, and again, I hate to use the word karma because we're getting way too, we're getting way too much on the spiritual train of this. And it's just in the fear of, I'm terrified to open my heart again because I might get hurt. You know what I mean? But I have to take responsibility for my life if I want new things to come in, if I want new breaths of fresh air, if I want new relationships, if I want new experiences, I need to be open to them. And the only way to get the water flowing again, the energy flowing again, is to take responsibility for that. And the first step towards that is forgiving myself. You know what I mean? I forgive myself. I do better every day. I do better when I know better. And I'm growing. You know what I mean? And I'm doing the best that I can. And I'm open to that. And that's what I think that this reading is about. I think that it's just being open to things that you may have been closed off to before. You know what I mean? Not knowing what way they're going to go. But this is on a bigger scale. It's just, you know, kind of taking responsibility for the things that you can and releasing, again, the things that you've got no control over. And now let's throw some tarot cards on this and see where this goes. But for some of you, it's I'm going to get back in the game here of life, the game of life. And I'm going to show up and I'm going to do kind things for people. And in return, I know that the gates will open. But you come in with, you came in with receiving. So this means you're going to receive something today. So that's probably the first step. Now, what are you going to do with that? Right? That's the question. You've got giving and receiving. So you'll be open to it. You'll be open to accepting it. Right? And that's, again, it's taking responsibility. I'm not saying that if there's a relationship here that's been wonky, right, that you're going to take the person back. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you might be open to dialogue where you need to actually get in the boat of your life here and just take responsibility for something and just say, look, example would be, you know I'm not perfect. I forgive myself and I forgive you. It doesn't necessarily need to be, though, that the relationship comes back together. It just gets you back in alignment with energy that's open and flowing, right? It doesn't mean anything really about the person. It just means you're open to the conversation, you're open to the dialogue, you're open to taking responsibility, right? And that's not in, that's not in a juvenile way. That's saying, you know what, I did the best that I could and I forgive myself, but this just tanked. Could be the other possibility, right? Could be anything. It doesn't need to be a one-on-one relationship. Okay, show me. Show me. What do we need to know with this? Okay. So, it can be too, the Seven of Swords can be a card of deceit, but it can be self-deceit too. You know what I mean? It can be a place where I said something that I really didn't mean. You know what I mean? It could be the responding of some things sometimes too, where someone says to you, I love you, and you respond and you say it back, but you really don't mean it. It's just that you didn't want to be rude at the time, but it's like now the story begins. Now the things behind what really are behind the things really start to fester and they show, but nobody knows this. Right? Because you just can't, you're embarrassed. Now the guilt sets in. You know what I mean? Now you're ashamed of things. And all along you forget to forgive yourself here because you're human. You got stuck in a situation. That's just an example. But the Seven of Swords too can be, I just don't feel like I fit here. You know what I mean? And that's I got myself into a situation here, but I don't feel like I fit. It can also be, let me just see what okay. Here we go. Okay, now you've got the Ace of Cups here, right, which is kind of like your Holy Grail. Your Holy Grail is inside, right? Are you giving that away freely? Right? The King of Cups and King of Coins in the middle, he knows the value of value. Pull that, it's a person out of there as far as an energy goes. This is someone who knows the value of value. You know what I mean? They're very anchored. They're very integral. Now you've got the Three of Wands, right? Which is like waiting for something to come in. You may have invested in something and it's just not, it's not going the way that you want it to. It can be a relationship, it can be a job, it can be anything that you want. But underneath that card is forgiveness, right? It's self-forgiveness. You may have done something here that you're not real proud of. You may have launched a company and it's not taking off the way that you want. You may be in a situation that's just not exactly where you started out wanting to be, you know? This is a tough one. I think it goes a lot deeper than a situation. I think it's more of a, just a way of being. You know what I mean? The Seven of Swords can mean too that you're not showing up for yourself. Again, you're putting your heart on your sleeve there, but it's not, you know, it's the more saying things to appease the masses and not so much yourself. The Three of Wands can also be a card of, valuing yourself, right? Do you value what you're doing? Does what you're doing have value? You know what I mean? That might be what you're questioning here. Am I in something that my heart is really in? Or am I blindsiding myself? You know? Okay. The Magician, again, to me, shows up as kind of like that, the card under here. The leadership, taking responsibility. If you want to do something in your life, you need to make it happen. This, to me, this combination is not settling for something that you think is fated to you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, if you look at the lives of, and I'm just pointing this out as an example, when we start to shoot ourselves in the foot of, you know, this will never happen, I'm not good enough, we take self-criticism. We take criticism from teachers that, you know, really shouldn't be saying the things that they're saying. But look at the rock stars that come out under that umbrella. Look at the artists. If you look at Louis Vuitton, if you look at Armani, if you look at Coco Chanel, if you look at Hermes, right, a lot of those brands, again, started from people. Louis Vuitton lived in a box on the side of the street. Giorgio Armani spent months in the hospital with bombs. I mean, he got he was burned severely with bombs where he lived. Coco Chanel was just, you know, she kept going because she didn't have a plan B. She grew up in an orphanage. You know what I mean? You have to look at, you can't let someone dictate to you something you can do or not do. You need to know what your value is, and you need to move your own ships, and you need to have your holy grail where it needs to be, which the focus needs to be first and foremost on yourself. And that's not ignorant, and that's not self-absorbed, and that's not selfish. You know what I mean? You have to be okay speaking up for yourself. And that's what I think that this is about. I think it's really stepping into your own and not letting people put false labels on you. What is this Ace of Swords about? Ace of Cups, Ace of Cups. Ace of Cups. A new beginning. You see the bigger picture in something, and that's what you're going for. Okay? Again, giving and receiving, be open to something. If someone says to you, you know, you're a really great person, say, you know what, thank you. Be okay saying thank you. Don't try to say, oh no, I'm not. You won't believe what I did yesterday. Just say thank you. Just say thank you. Okay, now, this gift may be monetary. Okay, it may be someone telling you how they care about you. It may be someone saying, hey, you know what, that's a really great idea. You should go for that. And you do. That's a card of success. That's a card of, I realize what I've got control over, and I realize what I don't have control over. And I'm not going to be nervous. I'm just going to balance it out. It's laser focused on something that you want, something that you truly believe in. These are all coin cards, guys. So coin cards take a little bit of time. So go step by step. There's no marathon here. You're going to get where you're going. You'll move a mountain for it. That's what the magician says, right? And your Seven of Swords is looking right at him. I am going to move a mountain for this. And I'm going to remain at peace in my mind. And I'm going to go in the direction, Five of Wands, Five of Swords, putting boundaries in place. Leadership, responsibility, right? That's what you're doing. So that's what I've got. I hope this helped someone. I just did not feel, I felt like leaving someone with those healing cards was, I kind of left them on a limb, and I'm not comfortable with that. So this, I hope, brings it a bit further. The healing is, and I know it came up in a few readings, and it just did not sit well with me. Okay, so there you go. Trust yourself. You've got a new idea. You're going to be running with something here. You're going to receive something that you probably don't see yet. Okay? And it can come in the form of a compliment too. And it's something from someone that just, it really lights you on fire. And you should take it as a sign. Okay? So when this happens, say, okay, here's my sign. I'm supposed to go ahead with this thing that, you know, I really just have taped on the refrigerator for the last 3 years. Now I'm going to run with it. This is a time and a place where you're going to get where you're going, okay? It's just going to take a little bit of time here. But the magician, you've got the will to do this. You're not going to settle for something that you don't feel you deserve. You know, someone asked me the other day the difference between fate and will, right? Fate is just, it's something, yes, that's fated to you. It doesn't mean that you need to settle for anything. You know what I mean? It's like I say, I only mentioned those names, those famous names now, because they didn't have a plan B to back out of something. They had no choice but to go forward. You know what I mean? The only choice could be, yeah, you know, Louis Vuitton could have stayed living in the box on the side of the street, but no. You know what I mean? We all have survival instincts in there. And in that 11th hour, our creativity comes out, and we all have it. So there you go. I hope that I helped you in some way. I know this was a little bit different, but it's just a catalyst to the monthly readings, and I do hope that it helped in some way.